briefly. We saw the State of the Union last week, like we talked about. Not last week, this week, early,
The
and the
longest one ever, by the way.
yeah, and it was horrible. It was the most embarrassing State of the Union of our history, I think. Like the lying. So the only thing I wanted to talk about with that is the sheer amount of lies. Like, and I want to distinguish the lying between a typical political lie versus a Trump lie. And the way PolitiFact breaks it up, I think, is nice because they have the different buckets, like kind of true, mostly true, true, kind of false, false, pants on fire. You know what I mean? And the percentage of pants on fire, which is something that he says with no basis of reality, you know what I mean? Like there's not even remotely anything. It's like 40%. And like he only told the truth 3% of the time of the claims made, according to PolitiFact. That's crazy. If you want to compare it to to Biden rather, Biden lied like 15% of the time, like compared to like 85. Like that's a huge difference in amount of lying. And I'm obviously no lie is good, but like you come to expect it with some degree of politicians. Trump, there's so many lies in here that are just so outlandish. From the voter fraud, which is probably the scariest because it has the most real world implications. Also, I think what's so important is like something like this is the thing that just drives me nuts. He's claiming there was $7 trillion of foreign investment in the US last year alone. The US GDP is 30 trillion. So he's trying to say half the GDP was foreign investment in 1 year. Like, and it's just like, where did he even get that number? You know what I mean? Or like saying there hasn't been a single border crossing since I've become president. Well, the CBP tracks border crossing, and we know that there's thousands a month. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are very provable lies, but they're so far from like and like it's one thing to lie on the news or one thing to lie at a rally or on Truth Social or whatnot, but to lie in Congress like that, like it's just the institution is just broke.
Yeah, he makes up numbers, and what's so annoying is his supporters will always say, "Yeah, but there's some truth to it." And he said that in Minnesota, Somalians have stolen, I think the number was 19 billion. Yeah, $19 billion from the American taxpayer. That he said this in the State of the Union. Prosecutors in his own Justice Department are alleging 200 million.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, like, his own Justice Department, which has to prosecute this case, which means they're going to set that number at the highest possible number that they think they can prove. They're not going to lowball it, obviously. So his own Justice Department prosecutors are like, it's 200 mil max. And then he goes out there and says 19 billion in Minnesota alone. And his supporters would go, yeah, but you know, what matters is he's stopping the fraud. And it's like the extent of these lies are so strong that it's really one of the most, I think, frustrating parts of Trump's just as a whole, both of his terms, and like just talking to his supporters, it's just all you hear is, yeah, all politicians lie. And like what you talked about with the extent of the lying, like that's just too much for people's attention spans these days to explain to people that somebody saying, you know, the GDP has grown 3% when it grew 2% is much different than everything you're saying is 100% made up out of thin air. And like, that's a tough conversation to have, but I've had that conversation with Trump supporters many times, especially during his first term, where I'm like, everything he says is a lie. Is a complete lie. The majority of what he says is a total, and they go, yeah, but other people lie. No, other politicians tell smaller lies and exaggerations, but Trump is 100xing the typical politician's lie. But like, this whole conversation is very difficult to have with your Trump supporting friends because they always go back to all politicians lie. Like, that's
we're gonna get emails
base.
that say that,
right?
And comments, like for sure, because we have conservatives. Like I'm sure we're gonna get comments about that, and it's something that I want people to really and I honestly think part of it is allowed to go on because most liberal people know he's lying, but I just don't think they understand the scale of it. And the best example, period, is the voter fraud one, because no one on the left thinks that voter fraud has influenced a U.S. election to a meaningful level. Like, I think every liberal person would say he's full of shit, he's exaggerating it. But like, the fact that the Heritage Foundation, the group that tries its best to make this case, has only found 99 instances as non-citizen voter fraud since 1982.
Yeah, out
That's
of
like
billions.
billions.
Winning the mega lottery is a higher chance.
Yeah, there have been way more Mega Million winners
Right.
in the time. Lightning strikes, whatever. You know what I mean? And it's the thing that when when he says voter fraud is rampant and like, he's not just exaggerating, he's completely creating a fake issue. Like, it's completely fake, like, it's not even kind of true. You know what I mean? Like, and it's the same with illegal immigrants causing violent crimes and stuff like that. Just nothing even remotely suggesting that that's true. Like, the Somali one's a good example. And the sad part is, and what's so frustrating, to your point, is that real policy comes out of this, like, they stopped giving Medicare fund to Minnesota because they said they're investigating fraud because of the Somali stuff. Like, first of all, these guys got convicted in 2022, like, this scandal. Like, this all got finished, basically, like under Biden, frankly. And so it's not just him lying about whatever, about how much his net worth is or how many businesses he's turned around, like his normal lies. You know what I mean? Like, these are lies that then go ahead to make real policy. I personally lived it with the offshore wind stuff with they're killing the whales, where they just made that up. They just came up with a story and there's nothing that they're not. You know what I mean? And it just became real because he just kept saying it over and over again. And it's the same thing that happened with, and it doesn't matter if he walks it back, because we saw it. Tylenol causes autism. Oh, the vaccines don't work. Oh, illegals are causing rampant voter fraud and killing people all throughout the country. They're stealing your jobs, but also are lazy pieces of shit. I mean, oh, the Venezuela is giving us fentanyl, even though that's total fiction. COVID, we should be drinking bleach and using UV rays to kill COVID. Like, all of this stuff sounds so stupid, but it has, like, actual stuff comes out of it. So it's not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, it's not stupid when it really causes real life decisions. And the other one, which again is a great example of this, is the trans stuff. And it should be noted that, of course, he spent a significant portion of his hour and a half rambling, attacking trans people again, because it's the biggest gimme he can get in terms of, like, getting his supporters, because they hate trans. Like, trans stuff really riles people up, But again, I think it's one of those things that Democrats don't understand how rare trans athletes are. I mean, Pew did a study in 2024 that went through K through 12 and looked for how many trans women athletes there were in K through 12. They found 6 in the entire country. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 50 states. You know what I mean? Like, you are now more likely to get shot by ICE than compete against a trans.
Right. There's
Like,
probably 50 million students
Yeah.
that fit in that demographic.
100%. Like, we're talking national policy for, like, 10 guys, 10 people, 12 people. You know what I mean? Like, 12 ladies. I mean, like, it's just, what are we talking about here?
Right. And and you mentioned ICE. Like, are there undocumented immigrants that commit crimes? Of course. We live in a country with 350 million people. Like, obviously, it's like people, like the made-up crime waves in New York City and Boston, when they're some of the safest places statistically in the entire country. Like, it's just, are there crimes being committed in New York City, the biggest city in the country? Yes.
Yeah.
But there are also 10 million people that live there. And so statistically, but like saying, and we've talked about this before, like saying that Trump's lies are often based on a shred of truth, which I think is a fair statement. but that's being too generous to the word shred of
Yeah,
truth.
shred is carrying a lot of weight in there.
It's
Yeah,
carrying,
exactly.
when people hear shred of truth, they're like, okay, maybe there's 50 people committing robberies in Boston today, but, you know, Trump said there was 100. Like,
Yep.
that's what people think of when they think shred of truth, not there's been 2 billion votes cast and 90 instances of potential voter fraud.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Even
Not even
confirmed
confirmed.
voter
Yeah,
fraud.
yeah.
Like a shred of truth, people think a shred is 10%, 20%. We're talking about
Oh, exactly.
0.0000001%. Like, so even though that's a true statement that I have personally said before, that some of his lies are based on shreds of truth, like the phrase shred is carrying a lot of water.
And I think it's something that we all need to get better at calling out. You know what I mean? Including me and you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really, the GDP, 17 trillion. Foreign investment raised the GDP by 50% last year. You know what I mean? When it really did like 0.00002. Like, we all need to be going. And why it's so important, and by far its most important, is with the voter fraud, in my opinion, because this is the thing that he's going to be trying his absolute hardest to convince. I mean, he's clearly been trying to do it with 2020,